Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. The Ultimate Gentleman's Fragrance List, Top 10. Being a gentleman in the modern age is a dying art. Gentlemanly values of dressing well, sophistication, and especially respect for others, well, it's really not in fashion. I do think, though, that society, and women especially, are silently craving a return to those timeless values. I think being a gentleman can help save us all. And for me, wearing fragrances was a really important way of becoming more like a gentleman. Certainly the element of self-respect and attention to detail in the way I dress. If you want proof of that, just go and look at some of my earlier videos. The way I dress has improved 100% since I started wearing fragrances. The famous saying that clothes make the man can be upgraded to clothes and fragrances can help make the man. And that's certainly true in my case. Here are 10 fragrances that will really help with that. Fragrance number 1, Youre Intense. And it seems like a super obvious choice, but it really had to be on this list. To me, this fragrance is going to be the 8th year in a row on Fragrantica. This is one of the greatest fragrances of all time for men. These are people on Fragrantica voting that know fragrances really well. They're frag heads, and that says a lot about this. It just had to be there. I think Dior took a big risk in 2005 by introducing Iris, which is a floral note, which some people can perceive as feminine. But I think that risk worked out. Iris has become really, really popular, and especially if you're into fragrances, something like this is seen as magnificent. It is more than iris, though. It's got a lot of iris, but it's also got a lot of ambrette, which gives it a creamy feel. It's got lavender and cedar. And the strange thing about this, though, is it's a fairly subtle scent, and yet the performance is both strong in terms of projection and longevity. It's a masterpiece. I think we can all agree. Fragrance number 2, Parfum de Marly's Herod. When it comes to sweet tobacco fragrances, they generally follow the same script every time. You get your tobacco, you get something sweet. It's usually honey or vanilla or both. And then you get something warm, spicy, usually cinnamon. And, as far as the creation of this fragrance, this pretty much follows the script, except it's a niche house, so they can double up and add a little bit of pop to each component. So with the vanilla, you have labdanum, which is a very sweet resin. It makes the vanilla pop. When it comes to the warm spicy, it has cinnamon, and it's got an aroma chemical called pepperwood. It makes it a little bit extra spicy. And then when it comes to the tobacco, they've got some smoky incense as well. So each of them has that added component, and it all adds up to the fact it's a very strong sweet tobacco. And as of today, it is the only fragrance that has gotten me a compliment from someone who was over 6 feet away. I remember being blown away by that. So this is not just a nice smelling fragrance. It has great performance. Fragrance number 3, this is Habit Rouge Eau de Parfum, 1966 fragrance that I think would be a great gentlemanly scent for a mature gentleman, mainly because it has a lot of carnation, which is a note from another time. So younger guys are not going to appreciate it the way we do. It's got a lot of complexity to it, though. 1966 is a pretty macho time, and it has a very prominent rose note, which is not something that you would expect. But rose is only one of 4 components here. It also has a lot of sweetness as well. There's a vanilla note with 2 supplementary warm resins, so it's got a sweet quality. It's also got a lot of citrus. So the citrus and the vanilla work really well as a contrast. It's got lemon and bergamot, orange and tangerine and lime. So a ton of citrus notes. And then it's got a warm, spicy component with the carnation, which is a spicy note, and cinnamon added to it. Put that together with really strong performance. This is an all-time classic. Fragrance number 4, this is Chanel Allure Sport Eau Extreme. Now, you wouldn't think that a sport fragrance would be on a list of gentlemanly fragrances, but this is Chanel after all. This is a magnificent fragrance. What I love about it is the subtlety, and especially the tonka. The tonka is magnificent here. It's a very subtle, slightly powdery tonka. At least that's what I get from it. But there are three basic components, and they blend together really nicely. So you get a little bit of citrus freshness. You get the mandarin. And then there is mint and cypress, which are two fresh aromatic notes. You mix that with the tonka, you get a little bit of everything. Very subtle, very nice. It's Chanel. Fragrance number 5, this is Atelier's Café Tuberosa. An atelier is a French word that means workshop or studio. However, this is actually an American house. It's an American niche house, moderately priced, sort of $100 to $120 range, but in terms of quality and performance, it's very good, and I really enjoy it. So as the name would suggest, it has coffee and tuberose in it. However, this has the strongest chocolatey quality of anything I've ever tried, and even though it doesn't have a chocolate note, it has the requisite notes of cacao and patchouli, and put together, it is quite chocolatey. More than anything, this is a gourmand, because what you pick up is that chocolate note. You get some sweetness with the vanilla note, but you get that chocolate note. Then you get the coffee as well, and then you add the tuberose in to kind of mix things up a bit, all with really, really good performance. Now, the tuberose might be the one note of contention with people. It's a white floral, usually used in feminine fragrances, but early on, I would say the first 10, 15 minutes, you can notice it, and then it kind of settles into what is essentially a gourmand. This is a great fragrance for a modern gentleman, a younger guy. They tend to really like gourmands. This is definitely a gourmand. I do think the tuberose takes it slightly in a feminine direction, but only the most masculine of guys won't like this fragrance. However, if you don't like gourmands, this is not for you. Fragrance number 6, this is Versace's The Dreamer, and this fragrance was created to be a gentleman's fragrance. It was a response to Jean-Paul Gaultier's massive success of Le Male. Jean-Paul Gaultier, as we know, is kind of a party house. This is a much more gentlemanly version of it. It uses amber instead of vanilla. The aromatic notes are more subtle, uses tarragon, juniper, and a couple of other aromatic notes to capture the feel of the mint and the lavender in Le Male. And then it has 4 floral notes, including a lot of powdery iris. It's an absolutely gorgeous fragrance. There's a little hit of tobacco that some people struggle with. It's got tobacco blossom. You mix that with the juniper, it can give you a little bit of a balsamic kick. That might be the one thing that prevents this from being a little bit more popular. I love it. I cannot believe that something of this quality and this gentlemanly is so inexpensive. I think it might actually help this fragrance if they up the price significantly. Fragrance number 7, Maison Margiela's At the Barber's. And yes, this is a barbershop fragrance. I get frustrated with people calling things barbershops when they're not, but this is a classic barbershop. Leans more on the sweet side of things. There is a really nice, subtle tonka note in this. So it's kind of a cleaner version of Drakkar Noir. Drakkar Noir is, a little bit fuzzy with that tobacco note, but this one is cleaner. So with a barbershop, you're going to get lavender and oak moss. Those are the 2 main ingredients. There's also some aromatic notes, rosemary and basil, that kind of back up the lavender. And then there's a musky quality as well. Really good performance. It's really just a smoother version of Drakkar Noir. And given the fact that Drakkar Noir has been watered down significantly, this is worthy of consideration. Fragrance number 8, this is Givenchy Gentleman Only. This is one of my best discoveries of this year. Completely off my radar. I traded for it and I just fell in love with it. Beautiful, gentlemanly fragrance, but it's fresh. There's a subtlety to it as well. It has really good performance despite the subtlety. And it's quite complex because there are 4 components. You're going to get mandarin. You're going to get a smoky birch. You're going to get a spicy pink pepper. And then there is a nice smooth vetiver. All works together really well. This is a great summer fragrance for a gentleman. Another great summer option is Eau de Gentiane Blanche by Hermes. And Hermes is a very gentlemanly house. This particular line is not super popular. They're eau de colognes, but I can assure you the performance of this is unbelievably good. I get 6 hours longevity every single time. So a Gentiane is a spring flower, mostly in Europe and the Alps kind of thing, so it doesn't have a lot. It's more of a green feel than anything else. There is iris in this as well. There's some musk, but generally, overall, I would say it is more of a green fragrance, and it's very, very fresh. I think it'd be great in the summer. The hotter it gets, the better this would work. Finally, we have Lalique's Encre Noire Sport. And the Lalique has to be on this list. I really, really like their fragrances. They're very gentlemanly. They tend to do woods very well. And this one's no exception. It is primarily a vetiver fragrance. It's a vetiver line, but they're all done slightly differently. This one is more citrusy. It's got grapefruit and bergamot off the top. They all use, all of the Encre Noire lines, they use cypress as the aromatic quality. But most of all, it's the vetiver. Now, this one has watery notes, which really add to the juiciness of the citrus fruits. That's the big twist on this one. And it gives it a degree of freshness that the other ones don't have. The performance is very solid and the price is fantastic. But yeah, being a gentleman, I think, is a good thing. Took me a while to figure that out, but hopefully you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching.